everyone. So I just wanted to share how I was able to set up the ICS 46 virtual machine to work natively on Windows through WSL, which is the Windows subsystem for Linux. So I'll just go ahead and give a quick demonstration of what I can do with the ICS 46 distribution on my computer. So I actually made a shortcut to open it, and you can see that in this terminal, I'm actually inside the ICS 46 environment. So if I type something like ICS 46, it actually shows me all of the typical commands that I can do. I can type ICS 46 space version, and it shows that project C was just added. If I would like to start an example, I can do ICS 46 start an example, and I'd like to start an example, and I actually made one already, but you can see that it does attempt to make one in the projects directory. And so as you can see right here, it actually does exist as the example. If I cd into demo, I can actually build whatever I made inside of this demo project, and if I run it, it'll run it, and you can see that, oops, that's the wrong one. As you can see, the demo, or in the app, I just print out this is a demo, and you can see that that's what it does. It prints out this is a demo. Now, I know a lot of people like to use VS Code, and so the cool thing is that this is also compatible with VS Code. So if I open it up, I actually have a project open on WSL, the ICS 46 distribution, and you can see at the bottom left that I'm running it in the distribution as I said. And so a lot of you might notice or recognize this as the project one that we were working on, or maybe you're still working on it. If I run /build in the terminal in VS Code, you'll see that it actually builds it as expected, as you would do it on the virtual machine. And then if I /run, you can see that since I actually had to go through some lengths to set this up, it actually can show all of this GUI information. So I can make a depth first search, generate a maze, and maybe solve it, and it works just fine. And I can close it. And all of this is in Windows. I don't need to open up VMware, and so it's pretty fast. It feels fluid, and I think some people had problems with network or with copying files. You can actually, if I can try another demo, you can actually use explorer.exe. This is like a Windows. This is a Windows executable, but WSL environments have access to all of your Windows programs if you call them correctly. And so I can actually do explorer.exe, and I would like to open the current directory. And so you can see that it actually does open up my ICS 46 virtual machine directory. I can kind of navigate through my projects. I can navigate to the root. And typically the projects will be stored in, in home, ICS 46, and in projects, right? So this is where you might find some of your projects on your virtual machine. And so if you're interested in this kind of setup, then you can just, I'm gonna kind of take you through how I would set it up. And so first you do need to be on Windows. It's WSL, which is Windows Subsystem for Linux. And I think you have to be at least Windows 10 of some sorts. You could always install the student version, the Windows 10 Education. I think that's always a safe option. I got it for free and it worked just fine on Windows 10. And so the first thing we have to do is we actually have to enable WSL. And so you can do that in two ways. I think the easier way is to do it through the PowerShell. And so in PowerShell, if you try to type in WSL without installing it, maybe like that, well, this isn't a thing, right? But it'll say that it's not recognized. And so you have to do WSL-install. And if you do something like that, it will install WSL on your computer. I already installed it, so it gives me an error message saying that it's not a valid command. But the second way is that you can actually open up your features. You can turn, if it's available for your computer, you can turn it on as a feature. So Windows Subsystem for Linux, I went ahead and checked that on. And I also checked on Hyper-V because I think the WSL is like a lightweight virtual machine of sorts. So I went ahead and checked both of those. And so once those are both set, you basically have WSL. And so you could do something like WSL-L that will list all of your currently installed distributions. If you just installed it, then you might not have any. And if you'd like to get started, you can actually do WSL list and then online. And then so this will show you all of the ones that are available that you can download from Microsoft. Now there are actually like other ones you can download from like other sites, and like that's if you're like a Power Advanced user, but these ones are the ones that Microsoft provides you. And so before we start importing the custom ICS 46 distribution I made, you have to, or I think it's better to do the command wsl-set-default-version2 because because there's like two versions of WSL. There's WSL version 1 and WSL version 2. I think by default it'll install your distributions as 1, and basically the difference is that 2 is just newer, and so I think it does things better, and it's the one that I usually go for. And so you can see that this one performs successfully. At this point you might have an error, and so this may be because you don't have virtualization on, and apparently the way to check that is to go to your your task manager, and you can check right here, virtualization, and right now it says enabled, so that's why it would work for my computer, but if it doesn't, you may have to kind of Google how to turn that on for your system. I had to do it through boot up, through the UEFI boot up, and so that's up for you to figure out. And so assuming you've restarted, everything works, you're able to set the version to 2. If you weren't able to set the version to 2 but you're able to install WSL, I think that might be fine. I think that there's not too much of a difference, it's just that WSL2 is more optimized. So you can just keep going. And so at this point, let's see. So we have WSL version 2. So you can go, if you already have your, oops, that's my focus, right? So over here is the base distribution for the ICS 46 VM that's compatible with the WSL. And so it's in my downloads, so I can go to my downloads, and you can, yeah, so here's my tar file. And so in order to import something to WSL, I have to do the WSL-import. And so now it'll take 3 arguments, which is the name of the OS. I'm going to call it ICS 46 base. What it is, what I've done is that this is the completely base version of the virtual machine that you received from Professor Thornton at the beginning of the course. There's nothing on it, it's just that all the commands work, and it's just the very, I think the starting, basically, the starting config. So I'm going to name it the ICS 46-base. Now I have to give it the place to store the actual installation. And so if I can find my C disk, so over here I've made a folder called WSL distro storage, and then over here I actually made a folder for it called ICS 46 base. It's currently empty, but I'd like to install it there. And so for this one, I prefer to use an absolute path because sometimes using relative paths with this import's kind of strange. So it's absolutely installed in my C drive, WSL distro storage, and ICS 46-base. And so I'd like to install it there. And then for the second part, I want to import this one, which is in my current working directory, which is /ICS 46 base-.tar. And you could also use an absolute path here if you want to be safe. But if it works, I just press enter, and then it'll start installing it. So yeah, we just wait. I'm doing this in real time. This is all impromptu. I don't feel like editing it, so I'm sorry if it feels kind of rough. But I guess this is the experience of installing it. Alright, so now that it's installed, we can go ahead and check that we've installed it. So I named it the distribution ICS 46-base. So if I list out my installed distributions, you'll see that I have a new distribution. You might have noticed before I only had 2. Now I have 3. The third one is ICS 46-base. And so in order to start distributions, you do WSL-D and then you type in your distribution name. So I want to open the base one, and then so it'll take some time. Okay, I'm just kidding, it'll just happen. It tells you that there's an error, and if you run this, you're gonna see a bunch of garbage, because I don't know what it is, but don't worry, this is good, this is fine, and nothing's wrong. Just clear it, and you're good. It's all gone, everything's fine. But what you'll see is that you can run ICS 46 now, or hopefully, if you didn't encounter bugs. But so we are actually on the distribution. But if you try to do something like ICS 46 version, you might notice that the environment's kind of broken right now. I don't know what happens, but luckily, since ICS 46 restore is actually working properly, we can do ICS 46 restore. It'll extract the environment, and now we are back to it. We're at a base installation of the ICS 46. Now we can do ICS 46 refresh, or let's check the version. So right now the version is the initial environment. Like, we can do ICS 46 refresh, and now it'll update our environment. And if we try ICS 46 version again, you can see that he just added it. Cool. So he just added the exercise set 3. So cool. We're basically inside of ICS 46, and if you do ICS 46 start, you can start like one of the templates. So maybe I want to start set 3 because it's out now. I can do set 3, and then I think it's set 3. Yeah. So as you can see, I can actually oops. Alright, so in my root directory, I have a projects folder. I can go to my projects folder, I can show, and I actually do have a new set 3 ready to work on. And so now, well, maybe you don't really want to work on it here. Maybe you want to open it in VS Code. So you can do code dot, and it'll give you an error. And this is because one thing is that, so I don't want to, and one thing is because you can actually open up certain like applications from your Windows machine. So if I type something like where code is like the alias for VS Code. I'm pretty sure you guys know that. Okay, it doesn't work. So let's try where is code. Okay, so you can see that there's a couple of places the code can be. The first place is in user bin code, which is the local like Linux version of it. There's also user share code, which is also like a local version. And then you have one here, which is like a really long name. It starts with MNTC. This is actually my C drive, because what the WSL does is that it mounts all of your C drive as a mounted drive on your Linux, like this Linux distribution. So you can actually go to /mnt/ or if you go to /mount, right, you can actually show all of your different drives. So I normally have a C drive, a D drive, which is like the system reserve. I have an F drive, and then I have a G drive for the Google Drive desktop. So it actually shows all of my drives, and I can go to my C drive, and you can see that, or maybe I shouldn't show everything, but this is my C drive, which is kind of cool. But so basically the reason why we get the error message is that Windows would prefer to open it on the Windows side, right? That's what we want. We want to open VS Code on Windows and run it from Windows. And so basically, if you do want to use that, you can do sudo apt purge code or sudo apt remove code. I don't think it matters, but this will just remove VS Code from the distribution. Because we want to use it on Windows, we don't really need to use it on the virtual machine. And so let's see, if we type where is code, you can see that now it's updated. So it's no longer located in the user/user/bin. It's now both on my C drive, right? My mount C drive. And so if I say code dot, okay, as you can see, it's still trying to look for it. And that's because it hasn't updated like its path. So I think if we type source.bash/rc, does that exist? That does exist. And then if I try code dot again, okay, I think I just had to restart it. So if you want to restart it, once again, you could just open up a PowerShell, and you can do WSL-D, and then ICS 46-base, and same error message. But I think that if I try the cd projects, and then I do a code dot, yeah, so now it's installing a VS Code server, And yeah, now it should just, yeah, so this is kind of opening it in VS Code on Windows, right? You can see that it opens it on Windows, and I guess I trust myself, so you can see that I now have my projects right here. All of the stuff is here, and that's cool. And so I guess on the VS Code side, if you wanted to use it, if you don't want to use like the code dot command, and you just want to open it from VS Code, let me go ahead and close this remote connection. Alright, so basically if you go to your extensions, you can actually type in WSL, and there's a remote WSL extension. Once you have it, you can press F1, or you can press this icon at the bottom, open a remote window, and it'll show you different options. I have two. I have one to remote to SSH, and I have one to remote to WSL. We can actually say, we can open a folder in WSL, and then so right here, this is, actually I don't even know which one this is, but let's try opening a distro. So we can actually pick which distribution we use if you have multiple. And so I can pick my ICS 46 base, and it'll open up a new folder which is located kind of in the distribution. And so if I open a folder, I can actually look at root, I can look at projects, and this is my set 3. I'm going to go ahead and open it, and you'll see that everything loads up just fine, and you know, it's a good time. So if you want to open it from like the PowerShell with code dot, that's an option. You can also just open it through VS Code with the extension. Both ways are just fine. This is impromptu, so I don't really know if I skipped over anything or if I should cover anything, but I think some bugs that I encountered while performing these stuff is, let me go to my, so this is going to be my version of ICS 46, so this isn't the base, but I think one thing you might notice is that, actually, I'll go ahead and do explorer.exe, open up my Explorer. And I guess like a tip is that you can actually, if you do explorer.exe, you can actually find your projects, and you can like pin it to your quick access or your start, and then you'll be able to find it pretty fast or something. So that's a tip if you guys are interested. But one thing that happened when I was kind of importing this is that the ICS 46 will typically, the VM will typically install your project in /home, ICS 46 and projects, and over here are my like projects, right? And so, but this is where it installs it on the WSL distribution I made. It makes no difference in terms of building it, like the process and stuff, but if I do something like, you know, I decide to move project 0 over here, that's fine. And then so if I'm over here, I go to my projects, over here I have my project 0, which is the one I moved. If I cd into project 0, and then yeah, everything's here. If I do /build, you'll see that it gives you an error, which is that let me try it again so it prints properly. Oops, there we go. You'll see that it gives you a CMake error, and well, I don't really know what it is. I tried debugging this kind of stuff for a bit, and then it was too hard. But basically, just you can't move things from where you originally built them in terms of like ICS 46 projects to the root. So if you do want to import your projects, you might have to navigate to your /home/ICS 46 folder, and then make a new projects folder, and then like copy paste all of your old projects over if you wanted to import them from the virtual machine. But other than that, it makes no difference functionally. All of your new projects will be made in the root/projects. You can build them normally, and you can also build your old ones normally. Like if I go to my, yeah, I have a shortcut to go to home/ICS 46/projects, and if I cd into my project, let's say 0, and then I /build, it builds just fine. So in terms of location, as long as it's in the right place, it'll just build and it'll just work, which is cool. And yeah, that's about it. So I hope this was cool or interesting for you guys, and I'll probably have more descriptions in the post and stuff, but yeah, have a good weekend, everyone.